Welcome to Give Me Hope with Johanna, a place where real stories meet real hope. I'm your host, Johanna Vendel, a published author, speaker, and the CEO and founder of the prestigious International Hope Book Awards. On this podcast, we share powerful stories of faith, resilience, and transformation, conversations with authors, survivors, and changemakers who turned life's hardest moments into purpose. If you're searching for encouragement, healing, or a reminder that your story still matters, then you're in the right place. Press that subscribe button now and don't miss a story. So now, let's welcome your host, Johanna Vendel.
Good day, everyone, and welcome to Give Me Hope with Johanna. I'm so glad to be here today because I have so much to tell you all about what has happened in my life lately. I have started a clothing range with the Give Me Hope with Johanna podcast logo on the front. And if you take a look at all the pictures that I'm going to show you soon, you will see how beautiful it came out. I have hoodies, top tanks, t-shirts, long sleeve shirts, zippers. So take a look. The link below will take you directly to my store so that you can go and wear my brand and spread the hope. Because, you know, when you wear it and you see that beautiful logo, all that you can see when you see it, when you walk past someone is, give me hope. And you never know who needs that. Just to see that is already going to put something in them and say, I got some hope today. There's too little of that. And then I have just launched my number 6 book, Still Standing. And this book is a reflection about everything bad that happened in my life. But the way I'm reflecting on my story from a few years ago when I lost my entire family, I am reflecting back and seeing how God has changed so many things and how He has actually started to help me to become strong, for me to carry my weight that I am carrying today. The weight is not heavy because God is carrying it with me. And in Still Standing, you will see how I am so grateful that he is holding my hand. It is available on Amazon, and that link will also be below in the description. But for now, I am just going to speak in my own language because I actually am interviewing a South African woman today. En ek wil haar graag in Afrikaans voorstel. Haar naam is Dr. Candice McClendon en sy is ook 'n author en ons gaan hoor wat sy vir ons te sê het. Welkom Candice.
Baie dankie, Johanna. Is 'n groot plesier om hier te wees vandag. Very honored and very humbled to have this conversation with you and to engage with your audience. Thank you for having me.
Ja, nee, dit is nie altyd wat ek die geleentheid kry om Afrikaans te praat nie. Well, let's go back to English and let everyone understand what we have to say. Candice, would you mind to just introduce yourself to my guests and tell us a little more about you?
Sure. Thank you, Johanna. So I'm Dr. Candice McClendon. I am an industrial psychologist by profession. I'm the author of Releasing Eagles, Changing Lives Through Mentorship and Coaching. I am the founder of Releasing Eagles, which is a nonprofit organization that I started 20 years ago. That's not from birth. And our mission is providing mentorship and coaching for young people in underprivileged spaces. I'm also an executive coach by profession. But most importantly, I am a servant at heart. I am a child of the Most High God. I am awakened about my purpose. I know why I was born. I know why I'm here. And if you were to ask me what my most significant achievement to date would be, I'd always say it's the privilege I had to serve more than 150 young lives in them.
Wow.
That is the mentees on our program. I believe in a saying that says quality over quantity. We may not boast about 1,000 or well, millions, but in terms of stewardship, I am very humbled to say that I could account for every young life that came into Releasing Eagles. And in my book, I talk about the Starfish story, and I don't know if you're familiar with it, but the Starfish story is a young lady. She's on an older man. He's walking on the beach for his early morning walk. And in the far distance, he sees a figure on the beach, and it looks like somebody's dancing. And as he comes closer, he noticed that there were many starfish that was ashore, and this young lady was
Wow.
picking up the starfish and she threw it back into the ocean. And this man was perplexed. He was like, how on earth is she going to be able to throw all these starfish back into the ocean? And she said a profound thing. He asked her, so how are you going to get all these starfish back into the ocean? He was overwhelmed by the magnitude of the task. And she bends down and she picks up the starfish and she says, well, it matters to this one. And she throws it back into the ocean. And the moral
Wow.
of the story is that, when we think about our purpose in life, when we think about why we're here, we can sometimes feel so overwhelmed because there are so many challenges. But don't start with one person, start with the one starfish because you don't know. When my mentors were pouring into me, they didn't know that within this starfish, there would be 150 other lives, that there would be
You
so
see,
many other young people that would be impacted because they took the time to throw this starfish back into the ocean. And so
yes.
um, I'm grateful. I think I'm a walking miracle. I often say to my friends and family that had it not been for God, had it not been for his providence, had it not been for his protection, I come from a community, I like to call it the United States of Haderfeld. I come from a community in Cape Town. I am proudly from this community. Unfortunately, it is a community where teenage pregnancy was high in my time, where gangsterism, I remember appearing on a newspaper article, and my late dad, called me because I was raised by a single parent. I haven't seen my father that time in probably 6 or 7 years. My father was an avid reader of newspapers, and in his daily routine, he went to go pick up the Argus. That's one of the newspapers in South Africa, and he was shocked. He saw his daughter on the front of the newspaper. And he called me and he said, Candice, you're on the newspaper. And I was like, what? I didn't realize that they had published the story, but it was actually the news at the time was young people having to go to school while there were shooting happening. And I remember when they came to interview us, I was doing my matric exams and I was the head girl of the school at the time, where the teacher
Wow.
asked us to enter into a room and we had this interview. I didn't know that it was for the newspaper at the time. And I remember in that article, they interviewed me and they asked me why, what motivated me, because I was the top achieving student at the
Achieving. Yeah.
time, and I was also the head girl of the school. And I remember the saying I said that my circumstances, never let your circumstances dictate who you are. I'm going to say that again. never allow your circumstances to dictate who you are, because we are all in a process. And if we allow the circumstances to dictate who we are, we might find ourselves walking out of our destiny. We
Yes.
are all in process, you know. So
Yes.
I'll never forget that day when and my mentor laminated the article, so I still have it, and it's 23, 24 years later.
Yes.
Such a
What year
beautiful.
was that, Candice?
That was 2001.
Okay. You know, just to come back to what you just said, you just sparked a memory in me as well.
Mm.
So, you know, when you go to high school in South Africa, and not just in South Africa, but here in America as well, there are people that come to your school from the university or
Yes.
the colleges, and they come and they speak to all the students, and they say that so this is my story basically. There was these people that came to our school, and this one gentleman said, you know, it doesn't matter how your circumstances is at this moment in time. And at that moment in time, we were so poor. I mean,
Mm.
and in South Africa, we had to make our own lunches for school, and we had to do everything ourselves. You know how it was.
Yes.
And there was a time that I didn't even have lunch for school, you know, and I will stay hungry till tonight when I get home or something
Yeah.
like that. Or when we do have bread, it will be otherwise peanut butter and jelly, or it will be maybe Marmite, you
Yeah.
know.
Yeah.
But that was all we had, you know. I never had a sandwich or anything with cheese and tomato and those nice things. And this gentleman said that day, he said, it doesn't matter how poor you are,
Mm.
or how your parents are speaking to you at this moment, or how they treat you, or what is going on in your home life. It all starts right here. And he showed himself
Mm.
right here. It
Mm.
starts with you.
Mm.
You make the choices in your life. And today you will choose the subjects that will carry you forward in your life.
Absolutely.
So choose wisely. You
Mm.
know, those words have always stayed with me. And
Mm.
I can tell you how it has carried me through these years, that I make the choices in my life. If I struggle, it's because I am not working hard enough, or I'm not making good choices.
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah,
It is, and I think that is um, what we call our personal power, but we also call it agency, our personal agency. We cannot control what happened to us, but we can control the outcomes. You know,
definitely.
I often challenge people and say, don't ask, why, oh my God, why did this happen to me? Ask the question and have the belief that everything is happening for you and things are not
Yes,
necessarily happening to you. Everything
yes,
happens in our lives, whether it is tragedy or whether it's celebration, all of it is to usher us into a greater awareness of who we are and who we're supposed to show up for in this world. You know, I have been
yes,
the reason why I have such a heart and passion for youth and young people is because at the age of 9, I needed a role model. I wanted somebody to look up to. And I didn't see a way out. I couldn't see a way out of poverty. I couldn't see a way out of the community where I was living. And I recognized that. I said to myself, one day when I'm big, I want to be someone else's hope. I want to be able, with a girl now in Haderfell can say, Candice come from Haderfell, look where she is today. I came from very little. And the beauty of it is there's already a beautiful plan for our lives. Before the beginning of time, the scripture says so beautifully, before you were born, I knew you. And so when we understand that he is Alpha and
and
Omega.
Omega.
Means he's the beginning and the
And the
end.
end.
And what that means for me is my father was in the beginning of my story and is
And
very
he
much
will
in the
be there.
end of my story. And if Christ is in you, you know how the story ends. The story ends that you are victorious. The story ends
Amen.
that you are risen. The story ends that you are on a throne. You are above and not beneath. The story ends that you are healed. The story ends
Yes.
that you are provided for. We serve our Father who says, "I own the cattle on 1,000 hills." When I look into lack, sometimes I remind my daddy, I remind him, "You own all of this, Father, and therefore I will not lack." And so when I grew up, I I had a vision of and this is about releasing eagles and how I got to step into my purpose, how I got to how I got to embody the hope of my Father, understanding that when we step into our purpose, you are fulfilling the hope He had for your life. You are fulfilling that intent He had for your life. And so I had a vision when I was 9 years old, of a bird in a cage, and every time as I was growing out, I would carry the sound, and I understood. That's where the name Releasing Eagles came from. I understood that my assignment was attached to helping people be free, helping people who are stuck in careers, helping people, young people who sit in hopelessness. Unfortunately, back home, Johanna, you know the unemployment rate is extremely high
Very
among
high.
young people, and young people are looking for hope. And do you know that perhaps we have been assigned, there's in my book I talk about the one generation blaming the next. There's a song that talks about the one generation blaming the next. And I'm saying for, there's been generations before us, we sit in the fruit of their labor. But what kind of
Yes.
fruit is the next generation going to sit in because of our labor? It is upon
Yes.
us. Right now, we are the hope of the next generation. We cannot sit still. And, oftentimes people say, "I don't have resources, I don't have money." Well, let me challenge you. You've got time, and there is nothing more precious than your time. And you can serve
Yes.
with time. You can give someone hope, like Johanna's doing, utilizing her skills, utilizing her gifts to create a beautiful platform like this to give hope. There's whatever is in your hand, we all can serve. And
Yes.
I think, often like to say to people, the fact that there is breath in your lungs is the evidence that God is
Yes.
not done with you yet. The fact
Definitely.
that you have breath in your lungs, our story is not done. And
No.
when I say I'm a walking miracle, my mentor said to me once, "The day you can talk about this without breaking down is when you know that you've been healed." I was
Yes.
molested by four different men by the age
Oh,
of 12, by four
oh
different men
no,
at different
Candice.
times. And as a young girl, I could not understand that. I couldn't, it was it damaged my self-esteem, it damaged my sense of self-worth, it damaged my identity, or the identity that was busy forming. And I'd
Hmm.
say this, had it not been for my grandmothers, who were women of faith, that got me into Sunday school and into church, I would not be the woman I am today. I forged a relationship with my Creator and Savior Jesus Christ at a very young age. And because
Wow.
of that, I am a walking miracle, because what I had experienced as a young girl, there is no rhyme or reason for me to
You
live
know,
the kind of life that I live today. And that is the saving power of Jesus Christ. That is his redemptive power. That is when you walk with him, he helps you overcome things that you couldn't even imagine was what's possible. And therefore I
Yes.
say, on this side, there is healing. When you take his hand as Alpha, he will become Omega in your life.
Yes, coming back to that, and that is also where my story come in when I said still standing earlier. Um, God prepares you
Yes.
for what He wants you to become one day. And
Mm.
even if you have been through all of that you have been through, Candace, I cannot even imagine what you have been through, being molested and still standing as well. It is just, there are so many different things that happens in different people's lives. Like with me, it's mostly grief and my people taken away from me,
Yes.
and how God has strengthened you now
Mm.
to be the example that he wants you to be for all these young people, and how he has taken your life and now showing to these young teenagers,
Mm.
look, Candace is still standing. You
Yes.
know,
Amen.
it is amazing how, if you think about the bad things that happened in your life,
Mm.
if you make the choices to make it a better life, then it can definitely help other people like you are helping people as well now. I am so, so proud of you. Wow.
You. Thank you. To God
Wow.
be the glory, I'd say. And it's a lot of
Amen.
there's a lot of work you have to put in. There's a lot of, I had to go to therapy. I'm a psychologist myself, and I think I also want to speak to professionals to say, they say the carpenter's cupboard is always broken, the mechanic's car is always broken. They talk, they say,
Uh,
the
a massage therapist body is always
it's always
sore.
sore. Exactly.
Uh,
So I had to
oh,
learn at a very young age, the importance of when you're in the service industry to also accept being served. I'm
that is very difficult
watching.
when you are in the service industry, because um, I'm myself, I'm a giver. And
Yes.
oh my word, it is so difficult to receive. I
Mm,
I I don't receive much, but
yes.
I do receive the blessings of God,
Yes.
but yes, it is difficult to receive.
And we can examine that, why that is so. I am a recovery, what they would call codependent person, a person who, because of what I experienced at an early age, I'm also what they would call a parentified child. I became a parent before my time. My mother was a factory worker, and so she had to work night shift, day shift, 6 to 2:10, if any of this is familiar. Those times would be the times where she was supposed to cook, where she was supposed to sit with my brother and sister doing their homework, where she was
Yeah,
supposed to go to parent meetings. I was that 13-year-old going to a parent meeting, cooking, cleaning. So I had to grow up way before my time. And as a result of that, I became highly
mm,
responsible. And I didn't have a childhood. Now I give myself time to play. I give myself, and this is the concept of reparenting, that we as adults have to reparent the little girl, the little boy inside of ourselves to remain healthy and whole. And so,
that
this
is
idea
true.
of sometimes giving and over giving is, and not being able to receive is, there's a scripture that has just been so illuminated in my life. I therefore instruct you that you would love your neighbor as yourself. The challenge is a lot of people have not learned to love themselves. So how can I love you, Johanna, if I'm having difficulty of loving myself? And this is not becoming a lover of self.
Yes,
Those are two
yes.
different conversations, because that is also very true, that we do live in an age where people have become lovers of self and not necessarily everyone. But I'm talking about the kind of love that makes you get up in the morning because you know that what you carry is for the benefit of others. Just yesterday, my
Yes.
husband and I were walking. We're walking down. I do my daily walks, and we're walking down the road. I'm in New Jersey, and cherry blossoms are starting to, because spring has arrived. I'm so happy spring is here.
Oh,
I'm
yes,
over the
I'm
snow.
glad as well. I mean, we are in Minnesota. You can just imagine Minnesota.
I'm over the snow. It was a heavy
Oh,
winter, but as we were
especially for the
walking,
New Yorkers, hey, that
yes,
haven't
it's
had snow, that much
snowstorm.
snow for a while. That was a big
Yes,
snowstorm that you guys
yes.
had.
We had a snowstorm. We had a couple actually. But I
Mm.
remember, yesterday I was saying to him, we're walking past and we seeing the cherry blossoms. It's so beautiful. It's starting to bloom. And we walk past this one tree. There's nothing on the tree, but the tree next to it had cherry blossoms. And I said to him, isn't that interesting? This is exactly what the word would say, that Jesus would come and ask, what's on your tree? And if there's nothing, it will be casted. And I was saying to, for we all go through life, and life will be lifing, or things are not always going to go your way. I only got married at the age of 41. Let me say that's another conversation on another day. But being committed to my father's purpose, my father's business, I would not, there were so many opportunities where if marriage became almost an idol, if I bowed to it in so many other circumstances, I wouldn't have met my purpose partner. And it's important, when we talk about receiving, is that relationship we build with ourselves is we also have to give for ourselves, because we know that for that tree to blossom so beautifully, it needs to take in water. It needs to accept the oxygen. It needs to take the nutrients. And that tree
Yes.
understands that I'm giving something. So when you give to yourself, you are creating conditions so that you can produce much more for others.
Yes, if I
It's
can say something to that as well.
mm,
So I've always been in the cosmetic industry where you need to take care of yourself and feed your skin and things like that.
yeah,
So I always used to say to the therapist that I trained at the time a few years ago,
yes,
that I always said to them, if you do not love yourself, how can someone else love you? We are very quickly to say, oh, I can never get a boyfriend, and oh, no one loves me, and
yeah,
things like that. But if you personally don't love yourself in that sense of, I am beautiful, I am enough, I
yes,
am made in the image of God. If
yes,
you cannot see that in yourself,
mm,
how is someone else going to see that in you? And
absolutely,
the moment you start to take care of yourself and you look in the mirror and you say, good morning, beautiful,
yes,
you know,
yes,
that is the moment that you're going to attract people to you without even saying a word, because you're going to portray
mm,
that I don't care if people look at me because I think they're only going to see the beauty in me. And
absolutely.
you will not believe how many people has used those same words to
Mm,
show someone else again to just love themselves in the
yeah.
image that God made them. It's
Yes, it's beautiful. It's beautiful. And it's so, unfortunately, in the process, people lose their concept of how fearfully and wonderfully we've been made. And
yes,
you mentioned coming from a beauty industry and cosmetic industry. Um, just the I think a lot of times people underestimate the beauty of the heart that actually changes your countenance. There is
yes,
an internal beauty that happens. And so I often say to the girls that I mentor, often say to them that it is, it's substance that this generation needs, requires
Mm.
substance. And when you walk with this idea that I am the workmanship of of Jesus Christ, recreated in his image, that you walk differently because you know that you carry something in. We are earthen vessels and we have this treasure inside of us. When you
Yeah.
carry the treasure, when you walk with that understanding, I carry a treasure in me. Oh boy, you're going to walk very differently. You're going to talk
Yes.
very differently. You're going to present yourself very differently because you have a treasure. And so, for
And you
our
know what? Your heart is going to be open
open, yeah,
to get people to want to speak to you, you know.
yes,
And then you're not going to feel that, oh my word, you know what I want to say.
yes,
It's
yes,
just that you have to open yourself up because that is what, you know what? God, God has placed us on this earth to actually not just think about ourselves. He
mm,
placed us on this earth to speak His word and His truth and be kind to one another. And like you said earlier, you know, stop blaming the next person next to you.
mm,
Let it start with you. You start to be a difference and you start to be open to absolutely everyone on this earth. And it will just be such a beautiful, beautiful earth eventually if we all start with ourselves first, you
yeah,
know.
yeah, absolutely.
We can go on and on about talking about this. Tell me a little about your book, how your book started.
So this book, I often joke and say this book comes with tissues. So this
I
book
got them.
So this is a book that documents my journey as a from a mentee to a mentor, and how I started releasing eagles. It also carries stories about the young people that I have mentored. This is actually a picture of me at my doctorate defense with my high school teachers. They came when I was doing my doctorate, they came into the room, and in the book, I talk about the women or the people that had gone before me, before I got to support other people. There were examples, teachers, and this is the other thing I want to say to you, listeners. You may feel like you don't have the resources to get to where you need to be. God has already made provision for that already in your path of life. He's already assigned teachers on your journey. I remember being a head girl of the school and I didn't have application fees to apply for university. Let me tell you, these women paid for my application fees. These women drove me to the university to go and apply. And 20 years, how many years later? About 18 years later, I could invite them to sit in the fruit of their labor, witnessing me getting a PhD. And in the book, I acknowledge the mentors, the teachers, the sisters, everybody that showed up as a mentor, in my life. These are stories of young women. This is Vanita. She's one of the 12 girls I started to mentor. She is now a qualified chartered accountant, the first in her family to own a car, first to own a home, first to have a degree, first of everything. And there are so many. So the book is full of stories of young people. So this picture over here is my first 12 girls that I mentored. And this was when I started. This was probably in 2003. So the book is called Releasing Eagles, and it talks about how I started the organization, how we evolved from being in Cape Town to going nationally to going internationally. It talks about how life, so it's good stories, sad stories. The reason why I say tissues, Jana, is because there are so many moments where you draw a tissue. You know, this is a young lady. She is one of our mentors. She was a mentee. She's in a wheelchair. She graduated from the University of California State University. She got her master's in counseling. She is in a wheelchair, and she joined our program. She came to the States with her mom, and now she is a qualified coach on our program. So it's an
Wow.
inspirational book of people overcoming hardships, people being released into their destiny, people sharing how I built an ecosystem where we have mentees, mentors, and coaches that serves the next generation. And
Is
so,
that like an anthology where everyone has their own story in there, or is it just you being the writer telling a story about them?
yeah, so it is me being the writer, where I introduce the testimonials, where they speak in their own voice, and
Okay.
I have pictures. So it also gives you strategies in terms of, I use the power of storytelling about the eagle's nest, when to identify when you are being kicked out of a nest. As an executive coach, I often have to help people understand or help discern the moment to say, there's been times you've been called out of your comfort zone, called out of your nest to walk into greater purpose and assignment, but you
Yes.
ignored the call. Guess what? The eagle is now kicking you out. All of a sudden, there's retrenchments or layoffs, and now you are faced with all I can do is flap my wings. And some of us, we will never understand the power of our wings until we are forced to flap it, and as if our lives depends on it. And
Depends
that's
on it.
when we
Yes.
discover how we soar. That's when we discover
Wow.
we always belonged to the skies. We were never meant to stay in the nest.
On
So that's the book, Releasing
Yes.
Eagles. Yeah.
Wow. This is amazing, Candice, that you are um, giving these children an opportunity to be in your book and to tell their stories. You have no idea what it is going to do to them in their lives, because like you said, God has already written their stories. All they have to do now is spread their wings. It
Yes.
is very beautiful.
Thank you, Yana. I'm so humbled by them. Just on Sunday, I had a meeting with two. They serving in the NPO, the accountants, and Vanita. She's back into the organization, giving back to the next generation. Lonel, a chartered accountant, that she was handing over, and I was sitting with them, and I was so humbled in that moment to think that not so long ago, these were just two young women, and all they had was hope in their heart to ever survive.
You
And they
see, if you
are
don't have
thriving,
that hope,
and they are thriving today. They are
wow,
runs her own private practice as an accountant. She employs 6 people. In South Africa, that's a huge deal because of the unemployment rate. And Vanita is in a big multinational corporate, and she's the CFO over there. And so you look at these two young women that started with very little and where they are today. And that is when I say I know why I was born. I know that I was placed on this earth to serve people like them, and how they came, how their life transformed. And there's so many stories. I can't even touch on all of them, but how their lives are transformed is testament of God's goodness. All glory and honor to him, because so I developed a model called in Releasing Eagles, which touches on emotional intelligence, spiritual intelligence, financial intelligence, physical intelligence. I taught these girls things such as, choosing brown bread over white bread, choosing water over Coke, choosing, helping them understand their bodies, their blood type. There's a song that says, I've been to Georgia, I've been to California, I've been all over, but I have never been to me. And releasing eagles is about helping people take the journey to themselves. So many people, I think it is Dr. Miles Monroe that said, the wealthiest place on the earth is the graveyard, because that's the place where the unwritten books, the unsung songs, the solution to cancer and to HIV/AIDS, it is all in the graveyard. Those are
Wow.
all the people that were
I've
born,
never heard
that
of
were
those that saying.
that was sent into the earth. It's not the diamond fields. It's the richest place on the earth is the graveyard. And so my
Wow.
mission is, and my purpose is to awaken people to their God-given purpose so that they would die empty, that they would die giving birth to everything that God has hoped for them to deliver in their
Yes.
lifetime.
It's
And
about what do you leave behind? You
absolutely.
know, is your legacy going to go on, or
Mm,
is it going to die and be buried in that
yes,
graveyard,
yes.
with all your secrets, with all um, everything that you can give to this earth, and this humanity. Are you just gonna let it get buried, or are you going to leave that legacy and it's going to continue to give hope? Is it going to continue to spread the word of Jesus? Is it going to continue to do what you had um, planned for it to do? It's
Mm.
all about those choices again. What are you going to do about it? Just do
Yeah,
it.
yes, yes,
Wow.
absolutely,
Wow.
absolutely.
I've never looked at it this way, that it could be buried with
Yeah,
you. And is it going to go on? Wow.
yeah. And we can also talk about evolving. Sometimes there are old versions of ourselves that we need to let go of to evolve to what it is that God has assigned to you. I always say when you enter the workplace, it's a training ground, for something bigger, something greater. And every station in your life is a setup. Every
Yes.
station in life is a setup. I believe
For
that with
something bigger.
always, whether it's good or bad, just know it's a setup. Because
Yes.
he says in Romans 8, verse 8, that he works all things together for our good. All things. It's not just the pretty
Yes.
things. It's not just the nice things. It's not just the comfortable things. It's all things he works
And
for.
when you said always, I can also say that that word always is such a powerful word,
Mm, mm,
because the answer is always
mm, mm.
God is good. And if
Yes.
He wants you to do something and you have that feeling inside you, because a lot of people say, but I don't know if this is the right thing to do and things like that. How will I know that it's the right thing to do? I always say, just start.
Mm,
Don't don't think about something must be perfect.
mm,
Just
mm,
start.
mm,
Eventually, God will just open doors for you and He will just make things happen, because He will always be at your side when He gives you a decision.
mm.
Sometimes you must just start.
Yeah.
Doesn't always have to be perfect. Just
Yeah.
start.
Yeah, it is progress over perfection. A lot of us, because we seek perfection, we never progress. We stay stuck. Progress over perfection. But then also, if you are confused about why are you here, what's your purpose? When I coach people, I tell them often, think about the things that really upsets you. Think about the things that really grates you, that makes you restless. Like I can't stand people being stuck. Like I can't stand so for me, my purpose is I'm free. and I bring freedom wherever I go. So the things that, so your purpose might be to bring hope. And so you can't stand the sight of hopelessness, because anything that degrades you, I want you to consider this perspective, that you are the answer to the thing. If you can't stand poverty, maybe you are the one to actually address it. If you can't
Yes.
stand injustice, maybe you are the one to address it. If you can't handle seeing people sick, maybe you are the one to bring healing. And so,
Yes.
just that perspective that, when, as Johanna had said about, oh, how do I know if this is the right thing? There's another concept called being in the zone, or being in flow. If you are willing to do something and not expect to be paid for it, like I would do mentorship and coaching for free, not necessarily anymore, but it's the one thing that if nobody had to pay me for it, I would do it. And like Johanna spending hours and hours of her time, of her resources in creating a platform of hope. It is no secret what her purpose is. Her purpose is to bring hope. And so think about what it is that hurts you, that frustrates you, that you believe you need to bring into this world. And like she said, just start. Everything else will fall into place. What he calls for, he provides for. If he's
Always.
called it for you, he will provide it for you.
Yes. Always. You see, you can always put that word in between there,
Mm,
because you have to just believe. If you believe 100%,
mm,
Candice, you will not believe how many things has happened in my life just because I believed it.
yes.
And you will not believe, but when we left the country in South Africa, we needed to sell our house
Mm,
before we move here, because there's no way that we can afford
yes,
paying a house on that side, coming to America
yes,
and paying rent on this side. When you move to a new country,
yes,
you have to pay rent first.
yes,
You cannot buy a house because you start with zero credit,
yes,
so
yes,
you have to build from scratch.
yes.
And till the last day, we have not sold our house. You will not believe this, but we put our house in the market in South Africa, and it didn't sell. My sister-in-law was constantly asking me, Johanna, did the house sell already? And
Mm,
I said these words: I am not going to let the devil get
mm,
a place to come in
mm,
and break my trust that God will send someone to buy our house.
yes,
That evening, before we had to fly out,
mm,
our agent called us and
mm,
said, so can we meet up tomorrow? Because we needed to give my mother-in-law signing power to take everything into her hands. If the house sell, at least she has signing power over everything. And we said, yes, we will meet you across the bank there in Pretoria. Across the bank, there's a spur. We will meet you at the spur. As soon as we went to the bank to go give my mother-in-law signing power on our bank accounts, and then we can quickly come and let her just have signing power at the agency as well. And he met us at the spur and he handed us a sale.
oh, wow.
It was 5 hours before we needed to be in the airplane and fly out. And
Amazing.
you see, I never, ever, not 1% doubted that
Mm,
God is going to send someone to buy our house. And
yes,
we could sign the papers and she could just continue. We did give her signing power at that time, and she
yes.
continued with the rest of everything that needed to be done in South Africa there. But I cannot tell you, it is just I've learned in those ways. I mean, that's just one of my stories. There are
Mm,
many that has happened, and I do not doubt 1%. I always put it in God's hands. And just like Give Me Hope with Joanna and the prestigious International Hope Book Awards, God has put it on my heart to serve these people. And
Yes,
I am not going to doubt 1% that I am not going to grow because He's going to send me the people and
absolutely.
I'm going to interview them and we're going to get their story out. And like you said, with those starfishes, one at a time.
One at a time. One
Yes,
at a time.
yes.
Absolutely.
Well, Candice, our time is also running out. I could speak to you for even longer because it feels like I just want to know so much more about everyone's stories. But this will not be the last time that we speak. And I look forward to speaking to you soon again. Is there anything else that you would like to leave our viewers with?
Absolutely. So, firstly, I want to say once again, thank you, Joanna, for this opportunity. Wonderful to connect with you. You certainly do honor your purpose in providing hope. I think what I'd love to leave with your listeners today is do not die with the God-given gifts and talents that He had placed inside of you. Give it no matter how insignificant you feel in terms of what you could give to the world, you would be surprised that when you are in service of others, the big impact that you could make. It is by maybe it starts with if you paying for the person's groceries behind you or in front of you. Maybe it's about starting with that food drive that you know has been in your heart for a long time. Maybe it's about that mentorship program. Your calling will always there will always be a tug on your heart about a social issue, and sit and pause and think about how you can start serving humanity. And like Johanna had said, it doesn't have to be big. You are one decision away from living in your destiny, one decision away from fulfilling your kingdom assignment. You're one decision away from living a meaningful life. I also want to leave with you the importance about we need you. This world needs you. The fact that you have breath in your lungs, there is need of you. And you may feel insignificant. You may feel, what on earth do I have to offer? There's a lot of old age homes where people are lonely. People need companionship. You could offer that. Do not despise the day of small beginnings. Do not
Yes.
despise the day of small beginnings. God will bless your faithfulness and your small beginnings. And so I want to leave your listeners with that encouragement. You were born for a time such as this, and we need you. This world needs you. And let nobody tell you that you are not worthy, because the fact your birthright is enough evidence that I am worthy. The fact
Yes.
that you were born is enough evidence that you belong and that you are needed in our generation. Thank you for having me, Joanna.
Wow. Thank you, Candice. Well, I cannot say anything more on top of that. Just take that step and just do it. That's all I can say. Thank you so much
Thank
for sharing your story and um, getting to know you a little.
you.
And yes, may God bless you in everything that you do because I can just see that you are changing lives one at a time.
Thank you. Love it.
Yes. Well, that was Candice McClendon, and I think she definitely have touched someone's heart today and give someone some encouragement to go on for one more day, because like she said, it only takes one person to make a difference in one other person's life, and you never know what that person might do with what they received. I will be back next week with another amazing story. Please share, like, and subscribe to Give Me Hope with Joanna. And don't miss out on these great stories that I share with people who have taken that step. I will see you next week. Goodbye. God bless.